Welcome to this conversation online at Sant Jordi in USA. I'm Laura Huerga, president of Catalan PEN, and I'm pleased to introduce you to the Catalan writers Marta Carnicero and Flavia Company. Welcome, Marta. Welcome, Flavia.
Thank you.
Thanks.
An industrial engineering graduate, Marta Carnicero Hernanz is an engineer and teacher. She has master's in creative writing from the Pompeu Fabra University. Her debut novel, El cel segons Google, The Sky According to Google, was published in 2016, followed by Conifers, in 2020. Conifers was the direct result of a stay at the Levitt House in Art Omi Writers at New York. Her third novel, Matryoshkas, was published to great critical acclaim in March 2022. Film director Pedro Almodóvar said, "I read it twice. The last few nights, I've been taking notes on the book like I'm actually adapting it." Flavia Company is a writer and novelist. She develops her work either in Spanish and Catalan. She has a degree in Hispanic philology. She's a journalist, translator, teacher of creative writing, and lecturer. In June 2018, she embarked on a trip around the world that lasted 4 years. From that experience, she wrote her book, I No Longer Need to Be Real, which she wrote under the name Haru, one of the 3 heteronyms, together with Andrea Mayo and Osamu. Her work has been translated into English, French, Portuguese, Italian, Polish, German, and Danish. She writes in the newspapers La Vanguardia and Ara. Okay. To start this conversation, we will listen to Marta Carnicero reading an excerpt of Matryoshkas, translated by Peter Bosch. Marta, please.
Yes, thank you. So this is the book. This is Matryoshkas. I wrote it in Catalan. It's translated into Spanish as well. I did it myself. And I'm writing the end of one of the chapters in the novel. We have the main character, Hannah, who remembers being in a prisoner's camp where women were repeatedly raped. It goes like this. You had even laughed in the camp, but you're afraid that to admit that will make what you went through seem less real, as if letting yourselves laugh would cast doubt on what they did on you. You also stand in judgment on the man begging on the market steps today, if on the way out you see him drinking a coffee at the bar, or even worse, smoking your money, the coins you gave him, that he, who claimed he was starving, opted to spend on some vice or other. Your pitiful contribution gives you the right to deprive him of his rights, however much you realize he can't do anything else. Hardship doesn't make you any less human. In that camp, where any animal would have been taken care for, being in denial made you feel alive, almost free. You thought about death, of course you did, but in the end, everything focused on immediate needs. The body gets tired, thirsty, trembles, is hungry, walks, throbs, and keeps breathing. In the camp, you clung to details to get through another hellish day. One woman only talked about washing her hair. Months after getting out, you kept clinging to whatever could help you to keep going. The fact you got through proved that Nina might be alive. Sometimes you even convinced yourself she'd escaped. The rest of the time, you kept trying to find her and give her a decent burial. You wanted to bear witness, to denounce what happened. All sides committed atrocities, but they wanted to eradicate you women. They forced you to give birth to their children. That's why they let you live. But when they're grown up, you'll be gone. They will have torn out your roots, and all that will be left are tender shoots. Those of you who escaped won't be going back. The land where you were born will be theirs, and those children, how many of them are siblings? Not related on the mother's side, but on the criminal side. Genocide is also about that, the possibility that siblings conceive without even knowing they are siblings. Years later, once they won't pile men's corpses and burn them, the victors now erected memorials. Winning the war was that, denying barbarism with a smile. You wait for your tram wondering if you did a good job, if your words achieved what you wanted. War, when talked about, is nothing. A couple of paragraphs in history books about individuals who have ceased to be people, individuals belonging to parties, ethnic groups, nations. A few lines in a book sprinkled with facts to lend credibility. bombing, borders, armistices, battles. The word war can't convey war. The word camp can't convey camp. For you two, who'd never been in one before, it seemed an empty word at first, and that's why you were able to shelter there. A bombing, when you've never lived through one, is very little. 2 syllables, 7 letters, a mute word that has shed the screams, the horror, the filth, the blood. Thank you.
Wonderful, Marta. Wonderful. Could you explain a bit more about this work?
Yeah, sure. Matryoshkas is a novel that has 2 plot threads. And on the one hand, there's the story of a woman, Hannah, who suffered rape as a weapon of war. And on the other hand, we find Sarah, who's a teenage girl who lives in Barcelona. And the 2 stories come close to converging somehow. The most important thing for me during the process of writing this novel has been to work from sensibility in order to avoid falling into emotional pornography, because I took care. I wanted to at all times stir the wound without digging into it. And that's why I did not want to interview women who had suffered rape as a weapon of war, because asking them would have been have meant opening a wound that they had done a lot to heal. So that's why I had to work from empathy.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thank you very much, Marta.
Thanks.
Very interesting. Also, we need to listen to Flavia Company reading The Island of Last Trust, translated by Laura Huerga, published by Europa Editions. Please, Flavia.
Yes, thank you. So I'm reading an excerpt from the chapter number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Night has fallen. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. He is exhausted. He is cold and afraid. He hadn't been afraid while it was light. Seeing his body through the water helped him to be sure there was nothing worrisome nearby. The sea, when everything is dark, is like an immense animal with black skin moving restlessly as it sleeps and may wake up any moment. He has been swimming for hours with brief interruptions to do the dead man's float. Dead man's float, what an expression for a moment like this. He would swell up and the fishes would eat him. Better that than being cremated or buried. He'd always thought he'd like his ashes to be scattered at sea. The sea, the tomb. Now they wouldn't be ashes, but all of him. Wasn't that what you wanted? Now you have it. He smiled. He hasn't lost his sense of humor. Or maybe this is what death is. Hoping, smiling, despairing, understanding nothing, while on the verge of understanding everything. His mother had been buried. Afterwards, for a long time, Prendel had nightmares in which bodies emerged with huge worms slithering through them. His mother, unlike his father, always told him, it's good that you go all over the world, that you value things that aren't bought or sold or measured, that you don't always have your feet on the ground, that you start over again. Who knows if he will find her again? Who knows if there is a place where the dead reunite to go over their lives, comment on them, project them like a film, forward, rewind, pause, slow motion, freeze image. The cold has relieved the sensation of thirst, but his head hurts. He knows that's normal. The first symptoms of dehydration, increased heartbeat and respiration, spasms, nausea. And afterwards he will have hallucinations. He will see an island, a boat. He will hear voices, messages. He'll see salvation. He keeps going very slowly. It's difficult for him to move his arms. He can hardly feel his hands or feet. He orients himself by the stars. He keeps swimming towards the continent. In the depths of his heart, he believes that maybe he will get to a shipping lane for merchant ships or oil tankers. Maybe some boat will change direction for an unforeseen reason, a breakdown perhaps. In any case, he's still mocking his survival instinct. Sailing means knowing where we are, where we have come from, and where we are going. Therefore, it is perhaps more difficult to sail than to live. Right now, Prendel can calculate where he is. He can calculate the speed at which he has been swimming, his approximate direction, and the amount of time he has spent in the water. He is sailing without a vessel. This is what will kill him. Although he's lost, he hasn't lost himself. He's a good sailor. Frank and Katie knew that, and so they had set sail with him. They had trusted too much in his skill, or perhaps they didn't figure that sooner or later the sea kills you. The only difference is that if you are a good sailor, you know where you are at the moment of dying.
Fantastic, Flavia. Wonderful. Could you explain something about this excerpt, maybe this work?
Okay, clearly, Dr. Prendel, who is the main character in this story, is has suffered a shipwreck, and he's in the middle of the ocean, just trying to get some shore, which is really very, very difficult or impossible because he's very far from any shore. So he's kind of living an adventure, but the adventure was finished, or maybe finished at the moment where a pirate ship attacked him. No? So okay, the thing is that, and I am not making a spoiler, he gets finally on an island which is apparently desert.
Interesting. These are works in translation. For me, it's a bit weird to hear you, to listen you in English, but it's wonderful. And what does it mean for you and for your writing also, that your works are translated into other languages and that they reach other audiences? Flavia, maybe if you want to start.
Okay. It's kind of weird. I mean, knowing and that are other people reading what is at some point yours, but not all of it, because of course this is a work from by Laura McLaughlin. No, it's not all of by me. So in a way, I think that the most important or most interesting thing about being translated, which in my case is some languages, is like the fact that afterwards you are maybe invited to those places to talk with people, and you meet people, and most important even is like you are visiting places you wouldn't have. So, and I am a traveler, you know, yeah, I met this around the world now. And for instance, no, in this the island of Last Truth, I mean, the Dr. Prendel is from New York, no? And his father is living in Georgetown, Texas. And I've been to New York and Texas, Georgetown, and at the university giving some classes. So, I mean, you know, it's like a way of make wider your world, your literary world. Not only your world, personal world, but also your literary world, because you are living and I mean, experiencing some other places and people and readings, because it's very important. And how is the influence of other readings on your work? Because there is an influence. I mean, it's unavoidable, I think.
Yeah, maybe this is an inspiration for another book.
It's difficult to hear you now, Laura.
Sorry.
Okay.
I said that maybe this is an inspiration for another book. I don't know. Marta, what is for you?
That's true. You never know. Yeah, well, I guess that what we writers want at the end of the day is to be read. So I'm glad that my books have been able to travel abroad. For example, they're reaching Argentina. Now I'm traveling to Buenos Aires for the book fair to promote the book. And I think that this is great. Because, like Flavia said, who's Argentinian, by the way, is great because it allows you to meet new people, to develop things that you would have never been able to develop had you not been there, and to get feedback from different type of readers, I guess. And well, as for English, I think that initiatives like this one, Sant Jordi, New York, are great to show the world what we're doing. Hopefully some publisher will fall in love, with matryoshkas and will let these voices be heard. So that's it.
I hope so, really. How is the translation process? This is something that you speak with the translator, or maybe you are separated for all this process because you only see the ending of all this process?
Am I going first? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Okay. In my case, and because I am also a translator, and I'm always interested in talking with the authors of the novels I am translating. I'm interested also in talking with my translators, and I always, or almost always do. I mean, I talk with them, and I am willing to give my opinions about some. If there are languages I understand, of course, like or English, Italian, or French, for instance, or Portuguese. I am able, but for instance, in Polish or German, I mean, I don't know what is going on there. No, I mean, I have no idea. So, but if I know the language, I'm even say some ideas or give some ideas to the translators. But always, I try always to talk with them. Yes, and it's very interesting. Doubts, and because of the doubts they put to you, you know how is going the translation. They are interesting doubts and not interesting doubts.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe you can learn something in this process.
Then you even can change some things in the next editions, because sometimes translators can see some may not no mistakes, but some irregularities.
Things that can be improved, maybe. That's it. Yeah. And Marta, for you?
For me, I think we could take of being looking at two different experiences, because I read in Catalan and 3 of my novels have been also published. Well, 3 of them have also been published in Spanish, and also a sample of each novel has been translated into English with the aim of finding a publishing house. So as for English, it was very nice for me to work with the translator, Peter Bush, who was very receptive to my comments, and I felt really connected to him through feedback, and it was easy, because he's a person who has translated a lot. He is the translator of Marcelo Doreda, for example. So he knows a lot about detail, about musicality, rhythm, and so on. But also there's the other experience, which is me translating myself into Spanish. I didn't do it for the first 2 novels, but I did it for this 3rd novel. And I didn't want to do it because translating meant, on the one hand, rewriting a novel that I had already written, and surely it would be better to take the time to read another one, a new novel. And on the other hand, Spanish is deceptively similar to Catalan. I mean, that means that the construction of the sentences is not exactly the same. The rhythm changes, the musicality needs to be worked on again. And well, I did it, and I'm happy with the result, and I think I will continue to do it from now on. But it was such an experience, because I had to ask myself, the feedback was with myself, and sometimes you are tempted to change something that is already published in another language, and you can't do it, or just wait for another, hopefully wait for another edition, another possibility to change the text as it is somehow permanently evolving.
I want to add another question, if you let me, because I'm interested in which of your novels, if you can choose, is the most important for you now after all these years writing. If you have to choose, if you cannot choose, but if you have to choose one of your novels, which one will it be? Please start with this one. What do you say?
I would say this one. I would say Matryoshkas. Because,
Matryoshkas.
like I said, the main subject is rape as a weapon of war. So I felt that I had, the possibility to shout, to cry out loud for these girls, for these women, for this, because it's been women from zero to, to really old women. It's two wars that we women live when there's a war. Not the regular one, and the war of being the hell, the hell of being a woman in a war and being treated as an object. So I think that if a novel gives you the possibility to make yourself useful in a way, to start talking about a subject that we try to avoid because it's not something we feel comfortable talking about, then it's good. And that's why I would say that's why this is the one I would choose if there was
Wonderful.
a fire,
Yeah. And for you, Flavia?
Okay, for me, maybe it's a little more difficult because there are more than 40 books in my case. I began to write at 17 years old, and so it's so difficult to choose between my novels and short stories books and my poetry, and so
Children books.
but I will answer. Hopefully the next one.
Oh,
that's a good answer.
That's a good answer, yes. So we will need to read that. Many thanks to both of you. I will ask you if you have another small excerpt of your book, if you can read us another, maybe shorter, because we don't have much time, but you can choose 1 or 2 minutes of another excerpt of your books. Maybe this time Flavia can start if you have. If not, maybe Marta has.
Okay. I would like to try with another one. It's my novel, The Carnivorous Plant, published by 3 Times Rebel, and it's by Andrea Mayo, one of my heteronymous. So it's okay, and if it's okay, I will read just a page or. Okay, thank you. From now on, I will tell the whole truth. From now on, everything I say will be true. You'll say, I don't believe it. How easy it would be not to swallow the horror or think it could only happen to others. That wouldn't happen to me. I wouldn't stand for it. How could you allow someone to do such a thing to you? I used to be amongst you before, in the club that scores the weak, the one that considers they are to blame. Complicit. What is weakness? And why tell the truth now? Why not before? You haven't the slightest idea what it's like, the fear of someone persecuting you. You haven't had to change your name, country, language. You are not me, even though I used to be one of you. It's okay?
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. And Marta, you?
Yes. You recall how, at first, your mother avoided you and the neighbors shunned you. They do that, your mother kept repeating, because they don't know what to say. When you'd had to muffle your scream and the words you wanted to spew out, you couldn't believe there were people who had none. You learned over time that not knowing how to choose them didn't mean you didn't have words. It was a form of paralysis in the face of horror, as you yourself froze it that first time. You saw hands frantically fumbling to undo trousers. Everything has changed over the years. When the time seems ripe to denounce the crimes, to speak up, to raise your voice, people don't talk about it anymore. Neighbors don't. Your mother doesn't. Above all, she acts as if nothing happened, not too much to spare herself the suffering as to avoid having to justify herself. Justifying herself as a woman who can't refer to rape without resorting to euphemisms. I don't know a single neighbor, she told you one day, who experienced anything like that. Even in your home, Now that she's coming to stay, she'll keep avoiding the whole issue. Your mother spent years lecturing you. You dress like this, speak like that, and you can lead them to believe you're handling them, your rights on a plate. And their rights, she repeats, have much more weight, whether you like it or not. The logic is as simple as it is devious. If they can claim provocation, and you believe me, she says, they'll do anything to prove that, you're done for. You can't change things. Don't go looking for justice. If they think you owe it to them, that they've earned it, they think they've got the go-ahead. Then it's all tears.
Wow. Thank you very much, Marta, also to you. I don't know if you want to add something or not, and we can close this conversation.
I would like to just,
yes.
Laura, I would like to say that the Carnivorous Plan also is translated by Laura McLaughlin, and as the understood, because it happens that you fell in love with your translators also. You know, I mean, I like the way she did the first work. No, she translated, and then I was asking for her to the next publisher. So it's just a detail.
Yeah, I've also worked with Laura McLaughlin, and I think she's a great translator, as well as Peter Bush. So, and I think that Peter used to mentor Laura. So in the end, you know, they all know they work in the same way.
That's good, because sometimes you have a voice in another language, and if you can keep this voice, also it's better maybe for your readers. But I think everyone of them they do an excellent work. So I think Catalan into English is in good hands. Many thanks to both of you. It has been a real pleasure to share this time with you, and I hope it encourage many readers to explore your work and read in English. Many editors, also publishers, to publish the books that they are translated yet. And thank you. See you next time. See you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks.